I'm Jeremy Ratt. I'm half Indigenous and half white. Pieces is an all-new CBC British Columbia original podcast. This is a story of being stuck between two worlds, and not really fitting in with either of them.
So because I don't have darker skin or long brown hair, that therefore I was not Indigenous.
You don't have to be a residential school survivor yourself to be traumatized by residential school.
Pieces. Listen to it now, wherever you get your podcasts.
This is a CBC podcast.
This is Unreserved on CBC Radio 1. I'm Phelan Johnson. It has been almost a year since the COVID-19 outbreak was declared a pandemic. It's an anniversary I'm sure many of us are not too happy to celebrate. This year has been a real challenge, and the pandemic has fundamentally changed our lives. But many folks have found ways to not let isolation get the best of them.
I know so many people out there all around the North who are ready to support you.
I think a good storyteller reminds you that all storms pass. We've been here before.
But we can help to draw out that resiliency and make them more aware of how strong young folks are.
This week on Unreserved, how Indigenous people are turning to digital communities, storytelling, and culture to feel connected, to squash those isolation blues. Tlicho Dene writer Richard Van Camp has essentially been on a one-book-a-year pace for 2 decades. His latest, called Gather, shares some secrets to great storytelling, and it includes 7 stories elders from his community have shared with him. Richard is here with us now to talk about his new book and how storytelling can help fight and banish loneliness, especially during this pandemic. He joins me now from Edmonton. Welcome back to the show, Richard.
Oh, masi cho, Phelan, sagya masi. My friends, thank you.
So
let's party.
Yes, let's party. So can you tell us about your latest book, Gather?
Oh, thank you, masi cho. So Gather is really an exploration of my journey as a storyteller. For those of you who don't know, my name is Richard Van Camp. I am Tlicho Dene. I was born and raised in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, Treaty 8 country. I was born in 1971. And I was raised in a town, it's the Métis capital of the Northwest Territories. It's Paradise, Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, officially quadrilingual, so Bush Cree, Dene, French and English are spoken at any given time. And when I graduated from high school, I went from hero to zero because I had no idea what I wanted to do. No idea at all. I wanted to be a breakdancer. I wanted to be a ninja. I was 19. I had a mullet, some pinch hickeys. And I actually had a real existential crisis. I had a midlife crisis at 19 because I was like, what am I going to do? Who am I supposed to be? And I saw that they were looking for drivers for the handy bus. They were looking for volunteers. And when I saw that on the green screen in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, the bingo channel, I realized that that was what I was going to do. I was going to volunteer and I was going to start driving the elders around because I was a really good Canadian. I was a really good Treaty Indian. I was a really good person. I was a former altar boy, but I was a really poor Tlicho Dene. I didn't know anything about our language. I knew a little bit about our culture through our mother, but I was so busy having fun growing up. But what I realized when I showed up to begin my apprenticeship as a handy bus driver in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, to the matriarchs, to the lighthouses, to the mama bears of Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. And I'm talking about Irene Sanderson, Dora Toronjo, Seraphine Evans, Amelia Gatrix. I'm talking about the sweethearts of our community. They could see right away that I was a really hollow Indigenous person culturally and that I was searching. And they took me under their wings, and it was bingo runs, hospital runs, medical runs. It was trips to Kaiser's in the Northern Store and trips to the landslide to watch the Pelicans return. It was through those driving and shuttling and couriering the royalty of our community wherever they wanted to be that they started sharing their stories with me. So Gather is really about what I learned. And the smartest thing I ever did, Phelan, was I realized a few months into my apprenticeship as the handy bus driver of Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, no one was recording our elders. Nobody. Because the mistake we make is we think everybody's going to be here forever. And so I remember explicitly having this, oh my God, if I don't record our elders and get these stories down, I think we're not gonna have this opportunity. My message with Gather is don't wait to record your heroes. Honor them now.
I think that's a great message, and it's almost like you went to, instead of going to, U of T or U of A, you went to U of Elder for your training, which sounds like, those lessons have still have carried you this far. So the inspiration for this book is, it's sort of obvious. You mentioned loneliness, but can you tell us a bit more about, what inspired you to write a book about storytelling and its effectiveness, against loneliness?
Well, the University of Regina got a hold of me and they said, how would you like to do something on storytelling? Because they had seen me at my book launches, and my book launches quickly become good visiting and great gossip sessions. They become about story, and they become about community and laughter and inspiration. They said, why don't you write a story about the joy of storytelling? And who was I to say no? I'm a huge fan of the press and everybody they're publishing. And, I had Tracking Heaven, the manuscript that I had been collecting with the 24 elder stories that I've been recording for 24 years. So they just said, just take 7 of the greatest stories that you think are going to matter to anybody, all walks of life, because these are all Indigenous storytellers that I've been collecting. So just pick around 7 or 8 of those most magnificent. But how do you do it? Write down how you did it and how do we do it? Because so many of us want to connect maybe more with our students if you're a teacher, with our colleagues if we're in a bigger organization, with our spouse if we're suddenly starting to feel a little estranged, with our children when the technology is here. Phelan, I'll tell you something. I think it's disgusting. I was hopping on a plane 3 times a month. I think it's absolutely deplorable that I was doing that. But when you're an author, that's how you make your money, is you tour. And when I look at what I was doing a year ago this month, this was don't forget, we're in the 11th month before March shut everything down. Literally, I was on a plane 3 times a month. I was gone probably 7 days or 6 nights a month. I can't imagine what that did to my wife. I can't imagine what that did to our little boy, right? He's 6. I think she put on a brave face because she saw how hard I was working to build a name for myself and to really honor my publishers. We're really proud of our books, but you've got to have presence to sell those books, right? It's expected. And the good news is about this is I never have to do that again, because now every author I know is touring. We're just doing it on Zoom. We don't need to be burning fossil fuels and traveling all over the globe anymore. Those days are gone. I think we all thought we had to be so busy. Busy was success. And I think the gift of this pandemic is the bond with my boy and I has never been stronger. The bond between my wife and I has never been stronger. We really understand each other now.
In Gather, one of the chapters is called Isolation, and you write that you're concerned about the loneliness that younger people might feel, and you suggest that we all need to share more stories and time together, which it sounds like you really have been doing. What do you think it is about storytelling that helps fight the feelings that one might have about, being isolated or lonely?
I think a good storyteller reminds you that all storms pass. We've been here before. I was just sharing on a different CBC program, my grandfather, Pierre Washi, actually lost his entire family to TB and influenza a long time ago. And he was a mountain Dene. And he ended up traveling with his dog as a young man through the Mackenzie Mountains to be with the dog rib. He was adopted by the dog rib. It's a reminder that we have been here before and we faced TB and influenza and polio and the Spanish flu and SARS, et cetera, et cetera. We faced pandemics before, but never has there been a time when science internationally, we're all working towards one goal. And I think that a good storyteller brings hope, hilarity, comfort, inspiration, and peace.
In another chapter, you write about the importance of connection to your community, both as a part of a larger Dene community, but also as a part of, your neighborhood. Why are these relationships so critical to you?
So every Tuesday we take Clicho through Nordique College, and it's free for me because I'm a Clicho citizen. So I am the worst Clicho language student in the world, and I'm 49, but I am trying. And to go and to learn and to try and to risk my language and to blow it, but to be met with such patience fills this Dene blood with a light that I've been craving since I was 5 years old. At 49, I'm finally developing the tools to speak my language properly. And I'm so grateful. So, everybody listening right now, whatever culture, whatever language you are, there are language classes out there. And if you don't see one, start one. You can start live streaming on Facebook. You can start gatherings every Wednesday. You can create a Facebook event. Some of you know somebody who's got access to create these Zoom links. Find that person and create the Zoom links so you can learn your language, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. So use this time, because all storms pass. We're all going to get back to busy. You can bet we're all going to get back to busy, but make sure when you get back to busy, it's on your terms.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time today, Richard, to lift our spirits. It's been great chatting with you.
Masi Cho, Phelan, I'm so grateful to you. All the best.
Richard Van Camp is a writer, storyteller, and Clicho Dene learner from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. You can pre-order his latest book, Gather, and listen to some of the stories from it on his SoundCloud. This is Unreserved on CBC Radio 1, Sirius XM 169, and Native Voice 1. I'm Phelan Johnson. Today on the show, how Indigenous people are coping with isolation nearly 1 year into the global COVID pandemic. Nepaturk means to have a loud voice in Umarmutin, a dialect of Inuvialuktun. That's what our next guest hopes to give youth in her community. 17-year-old Matea Gillis is the editor-in-chief of Nepaturk magazine. The Maiden Inuvik Youth magazine shares stories from young people and elders in the Beaufort Delta. Their third issue is centered around mental health in the North and the challenges they face, pandemic or not. Matea is Inuvialut, Ukrainian, and Irish from Inuvik, and she is here to tell us more about the magazine. Hi, Matea.
Hi.
So why did you want to start this magazine?
Nipatura kind of started off as just a few pieces of paper and some software. So me and the co-founder, Cassidy Lenny-Ipana, went out to a culture camp out at Ivivik National Park. We went into that camp knowing that they wanted us to come out with some sort of project to kind of tie in everything we got to learn, because the trip was you got to learn so much. They brought elders out with us, and we got to go out to historical sites and learn about our ancestors and how they connected to our own families, which was really cool because I love learning about my families and our history, and I always try to find the biggest and hardest projects to do. So I wanted to do a collage, but I wanted to do interviews, but I wanted to do photography. And Cassidy was really interested in doing interviews with everyone at the camp and talking about culture and stuff. So I was like, let's team up and do a magazine. That's fun. My grandma used to be the editor for Tsaiksuk magazine, which is the Inuvialut magazine in Inuvik. And so I've always been raised around editing and stuff, I guess. So it kind of just came to mind. So that's kind of what we started with. And once we became a magazine, we kind of set these goals that we hope to achieve and why we were doing this. And we found as youth were always being overlooked, even because a lot of the things youth can apply for is 18 plus. So we felt like we were being pretty overlooked, and it doesn't help that we're Indigenous, because we all know that being Indigenous is just another reason to look past us. So we thought, let's create this magazine and have it for Inuvialut youth as a platform. So we turn this magazine and we just have this space now to hold youth voices. And that's all we ever wanted to do, was just have this space for people to express themselves and tell their stories and motivate people. And it's come so far, and it's wow.
Well, congratulations. It seems like it's been really well received, and it seems like a huge amount of work. And I know that the first two issues were about Inuvialut identity and climate change. And so why did you decide to shift and look at mental health for your third issue?
Well, with the pandemic was one. Like mental health has always been a huge topic in the North, like all around the North, not just our region, but it's always been a huge topic. And being on social media, you see that people are talking about how the pandemic is affecting their mental health and that people are going to need these extra supports. And we came together and we were like, why don't we do it on mental health? Like it's such a powerful issue, and there'd be so many people who will benefit from this. Like people share their stories throughout the magazine, and like even like reading them myself, I was like, okay, I could take this away and like take this away from this story and be like, okay, so this is one way I could help myself. And so basically we just wanted to create this resource for people who are suffering in silence, and like have this platform for people who are ready to talk about their experiences and share and help others. And we just felt like mental health was such a big topic in the North and it needed to be talked about right now.
And so what types of subjects are you getting into in the magazine?
We don't really have anything set. Like we do have the next few issues are set, but we don't really plan anything until we're like, okay, so this is what's happening in the world right now. This is what needs to be talked about. It's our little magazine. We could do really what we want with it, which is really nice because we could go from, like I said, climate change to mental health. Like they're not common, but we could do that. So our next issue, we're super excited. We're going to be talking about racism, which also ties in pretty good with mental health and like everything. And we just felt like it was such a good time to talk about it with everything in the world right now. And we're really excited. We're working on it, and we have a lot of artists working with us. And then hopefully after that, we will start working on our food security issue, which is another subject we felt like was something that needs to be talked about in the North, because that's it impacts everyone up here. Again, it's crazy if you go to the stores and try to buy little things. Like I see it on Facebook every day, someone posting their groceries, and it's like 2 bags and it's $200. So we're hoping to do that. And we kind of just want to see what's going on in the world and shift Nippertur to fit the world's needs, or to fit Inuvialuit youth's needs in that time.
What has the response been from the community?
It's been amazing. Like I can't even express it. It's like people come up to me all the time and say like, wow, you're doing such a good job. And like, you work so hard for this and your mom must be proud of you. And she is. So it's crazy how much support this community will give you. Like I've seen it my whole life. Like I've played sports my whole life. The community supports us to get out to Yellowknife to go play these sports. Yeah, it's crazy what a community could do.
Mm-hmm. So what does it mean to you to be a part of a magazine like this?
I'm almost lost for words because I am so happy I've got to be a part of this. Like people tell me a lot of the times, like, why do you do this for free? Why do you give up your time like this? Like people say, know your worth. But people don't understand how much I've gotten out of this magazine. I don't need to be paid. I've gotten knowledge about my culture and my family. I've gotten connections that I would have never made. Like I've just gotten so much out of this magazine, and I am so in love with this magazine. It's like it's my own little family, and I've made so many connections. It's like and it keeps benefiting me. It doesn't stop.
And so what kind of advice would you give to youth in the North who might be struggling due to the pandemic?
Reach out. There's lots of people out there who want to support you. Like you have to put your work in to make yourself better. So if that means reaching out to a parent or guardian, or sitting with a friend and just talking, like saying like, oh, I've been really stressed recently. Like, what can I do about this? Or going to an elder. That's my favorite. I love elders. So going to an elder and talking to them, and just find something that makes you happy. And like, whether that's sitting by yourself and beading or going out for a nature walk, you're going to have to push yourself a little bit though you have to take the first step to making yourself better. But after you take the first step, there's so many resources out there for you to latch onto and get the support you need. Like I know so many people out there all around the North who are ready to support you. Just remember, you just have to take the first step to getting that support.
I think that's fantastic advice, and fantastic for lots of people to hear. That first step can be the hardest step, but is the most important step sometimes. Well, Matea, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. And, sometime I know you're very busy. You're very busy, and so I really appreciate you speaking with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Matea Gillis is the editor-in-chief of the Nepoturic magazine.
Hi, I'm Leah.
And I'm Phelan. You know us as the hosts of the podcast The Secret Life of Canada.
And we've got an exciting bit of news for you.
We do. We want to go to school with you.
That's right. We are now part of the curriculum in a way. We've teamed up with educators from across the country to create teaching guides that go along with some of our best episodes.
We've got teaching guides for Indigenous history.
Caribbean Canadian migration, Black history. Just head to cbc.ca/teaching guides for more info. And it's free.
It's free.
Hi, I'm Michelle Shepard, host of Uncover Sharmini from CBC Podcasts. In 1999, 15-year-old Sharmini Anandavale disappeared on her way to a job that police believed didn't exist. 4 months later, her remains were found in a wooded ravine. I revisit the case that has stayed with me for over 20 years, ever since I first covered it as a cub crime reporter for the Toronto Star. You can find Uncover Sharmini on CBC Listen or on your favorite podcast app.
This is Unreserved on CBC Radio 1, Sirius XM 169, and Native Voice 1. I'm Phelan Johnson. Today on the show, how Indigenous people are coping with isolation nearly 1 year into the global COVID pandemic. For Indigenous youth living in the North, it can be hard to access sexual health education at the best of times. The current pandemic has made it even more difficult. Thankfully, there are a few organizations for youth living in the Northwest Territories, Yukon, and Nunavut. There's FOXY, which stands for Fostering Open Expression Among Youth, and there's SMASH, which stands for Strength, Masculinities, and Sexual Health. Both programs are meant to help youth express themselves and feel confident. Candice Liss is Métis and the co-founder of both FOXY and SMASH. She joins me now from Yellowknife. Hi, Candice.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, first things first, what are FOXY and SMASH?
So FOXY and SMASH are youth-led, trauma-informed sexual and mental health education programs here, up here in the Northwest Territories. And we also provide programming in non-COVID times in the Yukon and Nunavut as well. FOXY targets young folks, usually between the ages of 13 to 17, who identify as young women or gender diverse youth. And then we also have a complementary program, SMASH, and that program targets young men and masculine identifying folks.
And can you tell me a little bit about what the aims of the programs are?
Mm-hmm. So FOXY and SMASH use the arts to reach young folks. So that's the arts really broadly defined. That's everything from digital storytelling to traditional drumming to visual arts and photography, Arctic sports, all kinds of arts. So we use the arts to reach young folks, and we also do a lot of programming out on the land.
And so what are the types of supports that FOXY and SMASH provide to youth?
All kinds of sexual and mental health resources. So everything from, introducing them to what their healthcare providers look like, to introducing them, connecting them with counselors in their communities if that's what they need, and also to provide supports that are a bit more anonymous if that's something they're looking for. Things like connecting them with the Kids Help Phone or helplines or online supports.
And so both programs, they bill themselves as trauma-informed. Can you explain a bit about what that means, specifically, to the Indigenous youth that you serve?
So at FOXY, it's really important for us to be trauma-informed. And for us, that means acknowledging and recognizing the impact that trauma has had in the lives of young folks, and to work with that trauma to help young people to process it if that's something they're ready to do. But also just acknowledging that that's a part of many young folks' lives that, has an influence on many other areas of their lives.
I wish this was around when I was a kid. So why did you want to start FOXY and SMASH?
FOXY started really as the thing that I needed when I was younger. So growing up in the North, I had a trauma background, and FOXY was really the thing that I wish that I had when I was younger. And that's something that I hear from many, many folks across Canada, that this is something that they really wish that they had had.
And so you provide services to communities across the North, smaller and more isolated communities. Normally, not in pandemic times, your reach is a little bit wider. How do you get these services to communities normally?
Well, we've been very fortunate that we've actually been able to continue traveling and offering our programming in communities in the Northwest Territories. So we have been in many communities this winter. Our workshops look a little bit different, obviously, as everything does in COVID. We have lots of mitigations that we need to do to make sure that everybody stays safe. But we've been really fortunate to have the support of our Chief Public Health Officer, who really recognizes the importance of having sexual and mental health programming even during the pandemic. Youth don't have to stop having sex, and mental health challenges don't stop just because there's a pandemic. So it's really important for us to be able to continue our programming during this time. We do address isolation in our programming and try to connect young folks to resources, both within themselves, to bring out their inner resiliency, because young people are resilient. We can't teach resiliency. That's within them already. But we can help to, draw out that resiliency and make them more aware of how strong and resilient young folks are, as well as to connect them to resources within their communities, like, mental health supports that might be within their communities, as well as supports that might go beyond their communities. So things like, the Kids Help Phone or other helplines or online resources, recognizing that everybody has a different way of dealing with isolation and different supports that best help them.
And so why do you think the programs have been so successful? You've existed for almost about 10 years now. Why do they speak to youth so directly, so well?
I think our programming is so successful because, for one, it really meaningfully engages youth, both in, developing our programming to offering our programming. All of our programming is co-facilitated by young people, along with adult or elder facilitators, because we really believe that young people, they're that bridge to reaching other young people that me as, an adult in my 30s just can't connect at the same level. I think our programming has also been really successful because our facilitators really see it as something that benefits them as well. So they can become really personally invested in the outcomes and making sure that our programming is continually as awesome as it can be and reaching as many youth as possible. And I think also the fact that our programming is developed and led by Indigenous Northerners, I think is really important to being able to connect with all the young folks across the North.
So although this year your programming has had to shift because of the pandemic, you've still been able to deliver it. And are there any favorite programs that you've been able to deliver or any favorite moments this past year?
I mean, one of the best things that we had was this summer we were able to do our On the Land programming out at Blatchford Lake Lodge. Our peer leader retreats we hold out there. And it was just such a gift to be able to be out there on the land, connecting with each other, especially in this crazy pandemic times, to be unconnected from the phones and unconnected from the internet. It's just such a wonderful thing, especially now that we live in this time where, we do Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. So it was really a joy to be out there.
And what do you hope the youth get out of your programming, as they become adults?
Youth who connect with our programming, I mean, the goal of our programming is always that young folks are better connected to themselves, better connected within their relationships, and better connected to their communities. So if any one of those three things or all of those three things happen, we consider our programming a success.
Well, thank you, Candace, for taking the time and telling us about all of this today. It's I just love what this organization does, so I'm so glad to be able to share it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Candace Less is the co-founder and executive director of Foxy and Smash. This is Unreserved on CBC Radio 1, Sirius XM 169, and Native Voice 1. I'm Phelan Johnson. Today on the show, how Indigenous people are coping with isolation nearly 1 year into the global COVID pandemic. This year has been a challenge for many couples, having to find new ways to work, live, and love each other, sometimes while in very tight quarters. My next guests have the opposite problem. Candace Scottmore and Richard Scottmore have been together for over a decade. But last January, Candace returned to Canada for work and Richard stayed behind in Australia. They should have been reunited months later, but the coronavirus has kept them apart for over a year. In spite of the distance, the two have found ways to stay connected. Richard is from the Yuin Wadi Wadi Nation on the southeast coast of Australia, and Candace is from the Chippewas of Kettle and Stony Point First Nation in southern Ontario. Welcome to the show, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, first, can you tell me where you are and what time it is?
Well, I'm in Australia at the moment. It's 9:37 in the morning. I just finished work, but it's a beautiful morning.
And for me, it's Thursday evening, 5:30, and we're not only are we in a different time zone, currently we're in a different day.
All right. So, Candace, you two are from different Indigenous communities, literally a world apart. So, how did you meet? How did that happen? Do you remember the moment that you first saw Richard?
Oh, that is a moment I will never forget. It was actually during Planet Indigenous festival in Toronto back in 2009. And I remember the opening of the festival and just hearing the didgeridoo. I was like, just something I had never really heard before. And when I went out to where the Red Path stage is, I remember seeing strong, amazing, powerful group of men that carry their traditions and songs. And so I had to get closer. I had to go and just be a part of it and just go and see. And so I remember walking closer to the stage and then I seen Richard and hearing him sing and his voice. And I was just totally blown away by what I was witnessing and seeing, and literally knocked off my feet. Like I literally just sat down right in my spot. Like I need to be here. I need to see this. And little did I know that I would be spending the rest of my life with him.
And Richard, what was it like when you first saw Candace?
Well, my background, I come from a very strong cultural background, and the songs that I sing passed down through my bloodline from generation to generation. So these are old songs I sing. As I was singing on the stage, I spotted this beautiful woman with long black hair, and she was walking through the crowd trying to find a seat. But I'm singing at the same time, watching her, and as she got closer, she placed herself like in front of the stage, right in front of me. And as soon as she looked up at me, I forgot what I was singing. And that's never, ever, ever happened to me in my life.
All right. So, Candace, you left Australia over a year ago now. But the two of you spent time apart for work frequently over the years. Last year when you left, Candace, you couldn't have known that a global pandemic was coming. But, the day that you left, did it feel any different?
We have spent time apart. Like, I think the longest we ever spent apart was 3 months. That morning, though, when I was going to the airport, I knew something didn't feel right. Even building up to a few days before I left, there was this, like a sadness that I felt leaving behind. And I didn't know why it felt different this time. Because Rich and I have been apart before, but this time in particular was, it didn't feel right. Something wasn't sitting right with me. And I literally, I'm not very much of an emotional person, but I cried.
And Rich, what was it like for you to see or to hear Candace in that kind of state?
I knew something was up because she's not normally showing that sort of emotion when we separate from each other. But this time it was different because she was talking to me in a sad voice, and she sent me photos of her crying, and we're not used to that. I wasn't used to that because that's when I knew, something is up. Me being me, I'm thinking, I'm trying to put it in a positive perspective too, and thinking, it won't be long. We'll be back together before you know it. I'll be there. We're usually like human boomerangs, we go away and we come back together. But this wasn't the case this time.
So you two are used to being apart, but this year has placed a lot of challenges on you. Candace, you had some health issues this past summer. Can you tell me what happened?
I was not feeling the greatest. And I honestly, I believed that I was having major anxiety. I thought, okay, like this pandemic is here, all the news about what's happening. I was apart from Richard. It was just like, I thought there was a lot going on. So Richard was like, you need to get to a hospital. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I will. I'll just go get checked out. I'm sure it's anxiety. So I went to the hospital and I had a bunch of tests done. I had to wear a Holter monitor, which actually they sent me home with it just to kind of look at what's happening with my heart. And in the course of 3 days, I had like 47 attacks where I was like having fainting spells. And we thought it was like an arrhythmia. But later it turned out that my heart was failing on me. And I was diagnosed with a complete heart block.
Richard, that must have been incredibly hard for you. You know, and even hearing Candace talk about this, I imagine that probably brings up some things for you. You know, how did you cope being so far away?
I just felt the heaviness, and all I want to do is be there for her. And usually I am there for her, but this time I'm not. It's still heavy to me now when I think about it. Like she's my world, so I do anything. For her. I mean, singing in the old ways. That's what I'll do to help heal, because that's who we are.
And Candace, I know that you had prior to going to see a doctor and getting an official diagnosis, you had a kind of a lighthearted joke that you made to Rich about why your heart wasn't working.
Yeah, I said, when we're not together, my heart just doesn't want to beat without you. Like you're not here, and my spirit and my heart, it knows that we're not together, and it's just like, well, if he's not here, what's the point of beating? So
it's true. It's true. Every time we're apart.
I even kind of like, I wasn't sure, so I literally asked my cardiologist that. I'm like, is this even a thing? And he's like, that's cute, but no. I was like, okay, I'm just checking. I just wanted to put that out there as a possible situation why my heart might not be beating. But yeah, no, that wasn't the case. But actually,
I reckon it is. She loves me. She misses me.
Yeah.
So, Richard, you had plans to come to Canada a few months ago, but you and Candace decided that you should stay in Australia. Why was that?
I was all excited to make my way back to Canada. But a week before that, I got an email saying that my flight was cancelled, and my heart sunk. It was like, no, this can't be happening. And I just thought this is another challenge put in front of us. But we talked about it, Candace and myself, and we just have to keep pushing forward and stay focused on each other, knowing that we have to keep our communication strong, and just encourage each other, lift each other up, because there's always that something that's going to be thrown in front of us.
And so you do have plans to see each other, fingers crossed. I think everybody who's listening to this is probably crossing their fingers for you. So you do have these plans to see each other in the spring, Canadian spring. And what will that be like when you see each other for the first time after over a year?
Oh, my God. I reckon I'm going to be emotional. I'm getting emotional thinking about it now. The last time I held her hand was when she said goodbye to me in front of my house, leaving to hop on a shuttle to take her to Sydney airport. That was 12 months ago, 12 and a bit. So when I see her for the first time, when I hold her for the first time, I'm going to hold her for a long time and not let go.
And I'll let you. I'm usually like, hugs. But this one, I am looking forward to that embrace, just being apart for so long and missing my husband's touch. The kiss is going to be, I think about that all the time, what it's going to be when we're together, that moment when we can be in each other's arms again. And that moment is what it's really exciting to think about. And when we are back together, I do believe, even though we're apart, it's like we're so in touch with each other's lives. It's like he's here with me every day, right down to like my daily routine. Richard's part of that, and I'm part of his daily routine. So when we're back together, we want to make this oath to each other where when we do have to travel for work again or for ceremony, that we will travel together. No more. We want to be together. Like, this being apart for a year was really hard.
Yep, no more. I'm putting you on my back, and wherever I go, you're coming.
Well, I think I want that for the both of you as well. Thank you so much, both of you, for talking with us and sharing your story. It is a delight.
It's been a pleasure for both of us, and we hope our story will inspire other people out there because, at the moment the world is everybody's being challenged during this time right now, and if our story can heal somebody and make that the relationship strong, well then so be it. I hope it does. I really hope our stories help others out there in the world. If we can do it, everybody else can do it.
That was Richard Scottmore and Candace Scottmore, telling us how they have kept their love strong while the pandemic has kept them apart. Richard joined us from Norwa, about 2 hours south of Sydney in Australia, and Candace was in her home community of Kettle Point in southern Ontario.
We are going to begin by taking that oregano that we have. We're going to take the oregano we have, just dump it straight into the bowl. We can use quite a bit of the paprika. I'm going to save a little bit. You can save a little bit if you want to, because I might mix it in with my sour cream. I'm not sure yet, but if you wanted to just jazz up your sour cream a bit, you can. So I'm just going to keep a little bit out. I'm going to put the rest in here. And then we are going to need a lime and some garlic.
Community members from Maniwaki, Quebec have been tuning into online cooking classes to learn new recipes and stave off pandemic isolation. The classes stream live on Facebook and are a part of a program called The Collective Kitchen, run by the Maniwaki Native Friendship Centre. They're taught by Chef Justine Deschen.
Let's clean our spots because we are going to do our tortillas. So I'm just going to move my stuff out of the way. We're also going to start cooking our chicken soon, but we're going to make our tortilla dough first, okay?
That's Justine teaching one of the classes online from her kitchen in Kittagansi-B, Quebec. Justine has worked in many kitchens, but after a lot of culinary jobs shut down because of the pandemic, she was missing feeding her community. So, when the Maniwaki Native Friendship Centre reached out to see if Justine wanted to teach some cooking classes online, it seemed like the perfect way to continue to feed people safely.
So I really missed feeding my community, and then that was my opportunity to finally reconnect with my community again, feed them again, and everyone was just happy and grateful, and I was more than happy to do it for them. It's hard, in pandemic times, and I'd like to stay home anyway, but the fact that I can't even really see my bubble right now, it's really, kind of not so good. So, doing this, it really, it helps me connect.
Justine attended culinary school at Algonquin College, but she was cooking long before that. It's something she grew up doing, and it's something that connects her to her culture.
In the culture, food is a huge part of it, and, the fact that it brings people together, it nourishes you, it can, make your day, it's bonding. I love that I can just do this for people, just cook for them.
Community members who sign up for Justine's cooking classes can call the Friendship Centre and get a meal kit before each class.
Right now, with the Collective Kitchen, people in our area, Kittagansi-B, Maniwaki area, they call the Maniwaki Native Friendship Centre and they get a box of food. I give the recipe and the instructions and all of that, and then they do all the shopping and they deliver it to the families.
For people who live farther away, Justine shares her recipes ahead of time so participants can pick up the ingredients before tuning into the class. The Collective Kitchen is a way to stay connected with family and friends nearby.
I have pictures of my nieces being sent to me. It's so funny. She's following me. She's right up against the screen and she's really trying to pay attention to me. It's so cute. I love it.
But it's not just the local community interested in Justine's classes.
I have people starting to contact me. I have a friend who lives out in Alberta, and she's like, I want to cook with you. And then my cousin who lives in Australia, she's like, man, like, I want to cook with you. So it's fun, like, just a different way to connect and do what I love at the same time.
Justine says the community's response to her class has been overwhelmingly positive.
They're finding it like just a great way to connect, and a lot of people have said that their spirits have been lifted.
And now to top it, I'm going to do a little bit of feta, a little bit of cilantro. There's our tacos.
That was Chef Justine Deshane talking about her online cooking classes. The classes are a part of a program called the Collective Kitchen, run by the Maniwaki Native Friendship Center. Thanks to reporter Rhiannon Johnson from CBC Indigenous for bringing us that story. To find out more, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/unreserved. That's it for this week's episode of Unreserved. If you want to get in touch with us, email unreserved@cbc.ca or find us on Facebook or Twitter. This episode was produced by Stephanie Cram, Kyle Musica, Zoe Tennant, Sean Vanderklis, and Anna Lazowski. I'm Phelan Johnson. Now a goa for listening.
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.